Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
All right, Ethan, welcome back.
Pete, welcome back. This is episode 30, huh?
Episode 30-ish, plus minus. You know, we'll see what order we upload these in, but yes.
That's a good milestone for us. Congratulations to us.
Indeed. High fives all around.
High fives. Speaking of high fives, let's get to it. Winning time. Los Angeles Lakers, episode 3.
Enter Pat Riley.
Enter a very disheveled looking Pat Riley.
Seriously, what a hippie. Honestly,
I thought that they made the former owner, Jack Kent Cooke, look like a raving racist and
lunatic,
sexist.
Right?
Yeah, lunatic. But what they've done to Pat Riley's hair may be some type of crime against humanity, right?
It's almost like they found him on a deserted beach, on a deserted island somewhere, and then they threw him behind the cameras, or in front of the cameras.
Yeah.
Look, I can't speak for... I know that this is a dramatization.
Yeah.
And I can't speak
Pat Riley's not pleased with this depiction so far.
I can't speak to the authenticity of these looks. But my God, I hope that's what Pat Riley actually looked like compared to now, right? He's now Mr. Slicked back hair, Mr. Gucci and Armani suits.
Yeah.
Like, he is the epitome of a sports business guy right now.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't even look like a car salesman. He looked like he was like a door-to-door vacuum salesman, right? Like
easily, right? And a down on his luck one.
On his luck. Just lost the Johnson account. Traveling vacuum salesman, yeah?
It was hysterical. And I caveat this again by saying hysterical only because the Pat Riley I know is the Pat Riley of the Miami Heat.
Yeah.
And he's the Pat Riley who's a consummate professional, who's always dressed to the nines.
Yeah. The highly tailored suits,
exactly.
slicked back hair.
The exact opposite. The exact opposite.
Yeah.
It's just so funny to see, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, the storyline was pretty good, but what do you think of episode 3 now? Are you getting what you want? Like, are you getting enough basketball? Are you getting enough drama? Are you laughing? Do you like this way that they're filming with the fourth wall? Like, how are you feeling about this show?
I'm liking it more and more.
Yeah.
Again, I think my criticism of episode 2 was that it was delving a little too deep on Magic Johnson's home life.
Mm-hmm. The bathtub.
But I think what they're doing is they're kind of showing you the home lives of every major player on that first, 79 Lakers team or whatever, 79, 82, whatever it was, right? So I think it's really, it puts things in perspective, and that's the beauty of these season-long reviews that we're doing, right? And recaps that we're doing, is that you get to see what the showrunners are trying to show you over the course of the season rather than over the course of one episode.
Yeah.
And so I'm with you. I like it.
Yeah.
I'm still not 100% sold on this being a must subscribe to HBO Max. But in terms of the show, I'm pleased with how it's moving.
Can I make an observation? You know I love to make my observations. Can I tell you what I've noticed that I think identifies why you and I have good feelings about this show? I feel like there is a lot of enthusiasm from the cast, and everything is just kind of about an optimistic subject matter. They're building something. They're solving problems. There's no violence. No one is really like crying or upset. And all the cast, I don't know if they're enjoying themselves or not, but they all seem to be jovial and putting like a lot of enthusiasm into it. And I have to say, I think you and I have identified a number of warts about this show, but all those warts seem to be covered up by the fact that there's just this happiness and enthusiastic, disposition about it that makes it like enjoyable to watch. It's not winning any awards either for the writing, acting's pretty good, or for even the storyline. I mean, it's basically a dramatization of real life events. But I feel like just the overall tone is so positive that it makes it just enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, and going back to what you said in the last episode, one of your observations was that it's not overly sexual, right? And where we don't.
Although this episode there was, my God, the boobs.
But having said that,
the boobs.
I agree. I agree. But I think that,
but not vulgar boobs. It's just like montage
and I
of
think
boobs.
That's the difference.
Yeah,
I think that's the difference, right?
Like the Wedding Crasher. Remember the Wedding Crasher? That first scene where like 50 women in a row kind of like fell onto the bed, like in bras and no bras. But it was so fast that you were kind of like a teenager, like, ha ha ha, I saw something, but you didn't really know what you saw. It cut so fast, right?
And it wasn't done for the sake of being salacious, right?
No.
And I think so you see that as well here, right? So, you see maybe you get a little bit of insight onto Magic Johnson's, let's say, sexual history.
Social life.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And so, again, you see acts that would otherwise be on TV. When you see them on TV, you would associate them with vulgarity or salaciousness or maybe even excess, right?
Yeah.
But here, it's kind of like it's on almost like a blink and you'll miss it thing. And it's also being shown not for a titillating reason.
Yeah.
It's being shown as it is for the sake of saying, hey, guys, by the way, he did these things.
Yeah.
Right? And these are the things that happened. Yeah. It's not, and this is the way that, life in the Playboy Mansion was.
And
we're not giving you a judgment call one way or another. It's just, it's there. This is what happened, and we move on. They don't linger on it. Yeah. You don't stare at anyone's boobs or butt too long. You're not seeing any sex act for too long, because that's not what the show is about. At the end of the day, I think everyone knows we're here to see about the Lakers.
Yeah.
We don't really care about the sex they were or weren't having. It's understood that it was there, and that's it. And they move on.
But you know what? They portray Magic Johnson as a really decent guy.
Right?
They make fun of his outfits, right? And he's like, "What do you mean? Like, I love these shoes, And this guy who's obviously a pimp, like comes up to him with a business card with just the letter Z in gold and says, "Hey, I have parties." Oh, thanks for introducing yourself. Wow, great. Like he comes off as like very naive and just a genuine, decent guy. Like, oh, why am I sitting in this movie? This is boring. I just met this gentleman who says he has like these really interesting get-togethers. I should go over there. So Magic comes across as, a pretty, decent and genuine guy who's obviously thrown into, this fishbowl and with all these other characters around him. But he comes across okay, actually.
Yeah. And again, that's probably maybe, 50 to 60% of the show kind of trying to promote everyone as being better than they actually may have been, right? And that was also another point that you made, which is I think they tend to glamorize or show everyone in a much more positive light than possible.
Is that right? Let me go one by one, and you tell me if they're portrayed, if you think in a better light or a worse light. Right?
Okay.
Jerry West. Bad light. Right?
Bad light. Really bad light. Yeah.
Kareem. Probably historically accurate, but they don't really do him any favors,
Certainly not yet, and I'm sure there must be a Kareem episode coming up, right?
Yeah.
Or a Kareem-centric episode.
Yeah.
But at the moment, more neutral to positive than anything else.
Yeah. How about Norm Nixon?
A little bad.
Yeah.
Right? He came off as like this D-bag who challenges Magic Johnson.
A little bit insecure.
One-on-one in the first episode or in the second episode. Super insecure, where he breaks the wall in this episode to tell, like, oh, actually, he was dressed well, but I just want to put him down in his place.
Yeah.
Pat Riley?
I mean, kind of lovably bad, But I mean, they kind of make him a little bit like, not a loser, but they're like, hey, this guy had nothing going on. He was kind of a has-been. No one really knew him. You know, like they made fun of his voice, obviously. I
think you hit it right on the nail when you said lovably. Right?
Yeah.
Because the thing is, when I think of Pat Riley of today, lovable is not the first word that comes out of my mouth when I think of a descriptor. Right? That guy is the Pat Riley of today is a ruthless basketball executive, right? He goes out there and everything he does is to win championships for his team. And of course, that's his job. That's what everybody does. But I mean, like he doesn't care if he comes off looking like an asshole today, right? Whereas I feel like the Pat Riley, Adam Brody's Pat Riley comes off as like this lovable loser kind of guy. Like you're rooting for him, right? And not because he's Pat Riley. You're rooting for him because he's like a genuine underdog. Yeah. And today, Pat Riley is not an underdog.
Not an underdog. And you know what? So, they portrayed his marriage in a very healthy way, especially when you compare it to, Jerry West's marriage, which seemed a little bit dysfunctional. Wife wasn't supportive, kind of jaded, like, whatever, Jerry, I can't deal with your crap anymore. At least Pat Riley, he was lovable, that at least they showed like he's got a strong marriage. His wife's a professional, she's supporting him and encouraging him. And
what did you think of that, that sequence that scene where he kind of destroys the garage, was it?
Yeah, I thought this was a little bit weird. To be honest,
I didn't get that.
It didn't really fit with the show because it kind of seemed like this hallucination. It kind of seemed like this dramatization. It just kind of felt like he was like tripping on LSD and like doing this thing. I didn't really think that was necessary. Apparently, historically, he did like at one point like make this comment where he did like a lot of like yard work and even did like some remodeling on the house. So I guess that's kind of what it was trying to show, but I felt that rest of that show is pretty realistic. I thought that was a little bit like, I didn't really care for that montage, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't. It felt out of place, and I didn't understand it.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I wasn't.
That's how forgiving you and I are to the show, though. We're really forgiving to the show. Some shows were just like they can't buy any love from us, and this one somehow it's got this thing to it, that we're like willing to kind of overlook this.
I think it's because it's like a pseudo comedy dramatization.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's a subject matter that maybe isn't near and dear to us, but we're big sports fans, right? So I think that, and we know the story, and who doesn't like a good dramatization of a biopic? Right? Yeah. So, what about our main man, the mob connected?
Tarkanian.
Tarkanian.
Kind of strange. I mean, I have to say that's also another area that if we were more critical, we'd probably pick on that a little bit. It even ended on a down note, right? I mean, with the
crazy down note.
Yeah, I mean, with the murder of his friend, and obviously there's very obvious, insinuations that he's somehow controlled by the mob or the mafia or something. I didn't think that the person who played him was consistent with who I envisioned as Tarkanian, but maybe that's because I'm more familiar with kind of the 1990s, UNLV team that played like Duke, and not this, 1978, 79 team that apparently was okay. But I wasn't very familiar with him. So for me, he seemed like much younger than I recall. But I guess that might be more historically accurate anyway. But it kind of shows. I mean, I guess I'm interested to see the next episode because I don't know how the Lakers got their coach. But I mean, boss, right, John C. Reilly, is kind of desperate acting. And usually he's so cool and like optimistic about things. This is probably the first episode where he's lost his cool and he's been a little bit disheveled. He canceled dinner when Magic came over, which I thought was a super funny scene. And, just generally like a little bit desperate now, throwing money at the guy, saying, I'll pay you 10 times what your current salary is. And, he's just really not the Jerry Buss that we met the first 2 episodes, right?
Yeah, I agree. I'm intrigued to see how he recovers, and I don't mean that in a bad way, in the sense that, if he's supposed to be this masterful negotiator and cool as a cucumber, how does he respond to the death of Tarkanian's
consigliere
agent? Yeah, right, his friend and agent. How does that work?
Yeah.
So it'll be intriguing to see, and obviously this is where the dramatization comes in. But his business card was left in there. Does that mean that they're going to try to make him a part of like a police investigation, which I don't think is true at all?
Yeah.
But it's
well, I went to Wikipedia to look this up, and I didn't find anything about this topic, so I'm not sure.
Right.
I'm not sure how closely this mirrors reality.
Right, but what I'm saying is that the show is dangerously close to veering off into full-on fiction, versus a dramatized nonfiction.
You're right.
So that's where I'm interested. And if it goes into that full-on fiction thing, you lose me.
Yeah, I agree. This isn't supposed to be that. We're not looking for the fake basketball team. We're looking exactly because we want to know, like, okay, for us, we all think of, the Lakers with, Kobe Bryant and now, LeBron James and all the other historical greats, right? We can't imagine a time when like people in Los Angeles were just kind of indifferent to them, and they played in this kind of like, what was Great Western? They were an insurance company, or they sold refrigerators, right? They were like a very basic company. They sponsored the Forum. I thought it was Great Western, like it was just big and out west, but I didn't know it was the name of their sponsor, their company. So, I want to see how they actually, turn this whole thing around. And I want to see something that's maybe a dramatization, but I want it to be historically accurate. I agree with you. I'm not just looking for something that's, made up events.
Yeah. And I mean, if we want to do that, I mean, you and I could sit down and write a show ourselves, right? Or write a good story ourselves.
We'll watch Ricky Bobby.
Yeah.
Right? The legend of Ricky Bobby.
Exactly. So I think overall, and pun very much intended, the show for me rebounded in episode 3. Yeah. It did leave me, in fact, wanting to see what happens next, which is not necessarily the case after episode 2.
I agree. Which is funny because we kind of know what happens next, right? I mean, it's always good when a show leaves you with that feeling, or like, oh, I can't wait to see what happens next. Something that's a dramatization is even more special because, to be honest, we kind of know what's next, right?
That's right.
Right? It's not like, well, do they get a coach or do they not get a coach? Do they get Tark or do they not get Tark? I mean, come on. I mean, maybe not everybody knows this. Like maybe my mom wouldn't know this, your mom. But I mean, generally anybody who knows, a little bit about the Lakers, kind of knows, how this plays out. So, I mean, for them to make you and me want to watch the episode, that's pretty special.
Exactly. And that's, I think, a little bit of where, again, pun very much intended, the magic of the show is, right?
Yeah, I agree.
We know the end point. We've seen the start point.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't have the show and if we don't know the show exists, we can kind of plot the direction to get from the start to the end. But we are still very much in it because we want to see every step of the way, which is nice. Yeah. I think that's really one of the selling points for this episode, or not this episode, for this series so far.
I mean, I still give this show, if we're diving into rankings, I still give this show a subscribe ranking. And it's because I think it's a feel-good show. And I also think that, to be honest, the Lakers are important enough to general culture that to kind of understand the story, I think actually is quite valuable. On the other hand, if you skip this, you're not actually like losing out on life where you're not going to be able to catch, pop culture references. It's going to screw you up for like other things in the universe and so forth. I mean, so that's kind of where my ranking is, that I think it's a subscribe, but I don't think it really, destroys your life if it's not your thing and you want to skip it.
Yeah. So I'm still going to stay at a mooch for the moment.
You're still a mooch.
I'm
a little bit higher.
I'll go so far as to say that of the 3 episodes, if we get maybe one really solid episode or maybe 2 more really solid episodes,
you're going to open up your wallet.
That'll promote me to a subscribe.
Yeah, dude, stop mooching off of my account.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I think so far, I mean, we're 3 episodes in. All 3 have been, pretty consistent. And that's also important. I mean, you don't like it to go up, down,
Yeah,
easy.
that's true.
A great premiere, and then it drops off. Or the premiere is, and then, suddenly it shoots up. I mean, we've had 3 episodes. I'm sure everyone's opinion would differ in terms of which they like the most, and we've got different elements from each that we like and don't like. But generally, I can say that that's pretty consistent across all 3. That if you like one, you like all 3. If you didn't like one, you probably don't like all 3. I don't think there's a lot of variation between those.
Yeah. And again, hopefully it stays consistent, and I don't expect it to improve vastly, but I certainly don't expect it to drop off in quality either.
Do you think they're going to bring in, I mean, if you know anything about the Bus family, Jeannie is very prominent here, and maybe we should say that she's portrayed very positively, right?
Yes.
But the Bus siblings, right? Jeannie and her brother, I don't know what his name is. I mean, they've had their tangles, and apparently, he was acting in a totally berserk way, and she cut him out of the organization like a few years ago.
Yeah,
so I'm wondering if that's intentional that he's not portrayed, and the Laker family's just kind of said, "Look, HBO, if you're going to do this, you better not include that bastard." Or if he's not in yet, or if he's younger or older. I don't know why. I don't know if there's anything here, if I'm just kind of like making something up, but his absence is notable to me.
I imagine there's no reason why they wouldn't include him, because they haven't been shy about showing the warts that the organization has.
Jerry West.
But at the same time, it might be a little too early in the actual story for them to introduce a problem within the ownership structure. So they've talked about the financial struggles that the owners are having.
Yeah.
They've shown a little bit of the, let's say, the professionalism struggles, or at least trying to convince people that he's the real deal. I think once the season starts, or maybe even once they finish that first season and move on to season 2, that's when we start to see, or maybe, maybe this is me maybe thinking as the showrunner, is that's when you probably want to see, okay, now let's add some drama into, so the game is stable, right? The team is stabilized.
Mm-hmm.
They're winning games. They're winning championships. How do we inject a little bit of drama inside the owner's box? Let's introduce the sibling. And I think one of the reasons that Jeannie is so prominent in the early parts of this show is because, well, frankly speaking, she's running the show now, right? So clearly she, quote unquote, won whatever struggles there were behind the scenes within the organization. So it makes sense to show her side of the story. But having said that, because of that, I would tend to agree that they will want to show the brother's side as well.
Oh yeah, let's get some good family drama involved.
Right? It'll be a little bit of extra juice, right? A little bit of off-court drama always.
Yes. Oh, I'm looking forward to that for sure. So, what else do we have to say about the show? I mean, steady as the course, right?
Steady as the course. I think we look forward to seeing what happens in episode 4, particularly. I think that episode comes out in the next 2 days or so. And when we reconvene in a week or 2, we can talk about episodes 4 and see where they went.
Do you know how many episodes this season is? Do you have any idea?
No idea.
I understand it's 10.
That's right. So I saw
as my research
10.
assistant, which is me, has just informed me. Yeah, 10. That's what I understand.
Note to any of our listeners, we are looking for a research assistant. Totally unpaid, but you get to hang out with us.
And we pay you in compliments.
Maybe. To be determined.
At least I was selling it with the compliments. When you take the compliments off the table, that's tough draw.
I don't know. I like to be very transparent.
All right, fine.
So, speaking of transparent,
yeah, tell us what is our next episode of Films and Stuff.
So we are going to be talking about the results of 2021's cinematic and Hollywood and television streaming platform success. And we're also going to talk about the first quarter of 2022.
Get your spreadsheets.
Or
got
just
his spreadsheet.
We've got our spreadsheets open, and we'll give you we'll tell you whether it's worth leaving home and going into the cinema, or whether you should open up your wallets and just subscribe to some of these platforms.
Will we provide a copy of our spreadsheet to any listener who requests it?
Yeah, I think we can do that. Or maybe what we can do is we'll put it up on we'll sort it out. We'll put it up on our website.
Whoa. These are big decisions being made.
These are big decisions. So
Spoiler alert. It's going on the website. filmsandstuffpodcast.com. We need an intern. We need an intern also who can update our website.
Exactly. And pick up dry cleaning occasionally.
Subject to finding that volunteer intern who can update our website.
I like it.
Okay. I'm ready for the annual audit.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, listeners, and thank you, Pete.
Thanks, Ethan. Bye.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.